Explain.
Mark, usually the drivers will qualify for their starting spots through heat races. We took the Elite 18, the 18 drivers out of the heats. They have drawn for their starting spots, and that is going to pay extra money for them because the winner will earn $1,000 for every position he moves up from the start of the race.
Well, let's show you what happened just moments ago, the drama of the draw for the pole and the front row. How does it feel to have won the pole here at Lowe's Motor Speedway by a draw?
The way the track is tonight, I mean, I'm glad to win the pole. It's kind of muddy out there, so the more you can stay out front, the better you're going to be.
Well, this is considered what? The luck of the draw.
The luck of the draw, exactly. I'd rather be lucky than good.
Well, a man who was good in his heat was Tony Stewart, the Winston Cup driver, but he broke in this car, and we thought he might be out of tonight's race, but there is a late-breaking development that Bill Hennessy has been following, and let's check in on that.
They're mounting up another car for Tony Stewart and for Steve Barnett. Steve, you're obviously giving up your seat.
Well, you know, we take care of Tony's late model deal, and we've always said, you know, if something happens to his car, we'd put him in my car, and he broke a rod or something in the heat race, checked out, so his car is handling pretty good, and we're just going to take his springs and shocks off and his seat and put it all on my car and it's a mad thrash here. You can tell we're really trying to get going, and hopefully he'll go to the front here in the race, so he's still got a chance. He's not out yet. Never say die. We're not giving up.
Steve Barnett, who maintains the Tony Stewart car, and listen to the crowd.
Tony Stewart will tag on to the tail end of the field, and that is a very popular choice with the fans here at the dirt track at Lowe's Motor Speedway. A beautiful brand new facility. 25 drivers will line up for the start of the 75-lap feature. Virgin territory for the series. Another new track that they're going to race on, and we're back with the grid and the green next. They're calling it one cool cookout at Lowe's Motor Speedway. Lots of hot dogs given to race fans earlier tonight. Tony Stewart is warming up his car for hot laps. He's been a real show already. As you saw from the pill draw, Darrell Lanigan on the pole, Dan Schleifer next to him. Then it's Wendell Wallace and Rick Eckerts.
Back in row 3, Terry English on the inside, Dwayne Hommel outside of him. Defending series champion Dale McDowell on the inside the 4th row with Ray Cook to his right.
Starting in the inside of row 5 is Mike Belzano. Next to him, Freddie Smith. Then it's Chubb Frank and Tim Hitt in row number 6.
Clayton Christenberry drew the number 13 pill. He'll start alongside Scott Bloomquist, the 3-time series champion. Skip Arp and Steve Shaver back in row 8.
And as we take a look at the rest of the field, Roby, one of the things that's going to be real interesting about this is because they went to a pill draw system, some of the fast cars are actually mired back toward the middle of the pack. They drew for the top 18 positions.
And a lot of these drivers set their cars up differently depending on where they start in the race, and they did not have much time to make many changes.
Well, this is the onboard view we'll have tonight with Ray Cook. He finished second in our last television race in Knoxville, Iowa. He's got a great starting position on the outside of row 4. The green flag is out, and here we go. The first late model Hav-A-Tampa race at Lowe's Motor Speedway. And look at the jump Dan Schleifer got from the outside of the front row, and look at this gaggle of cars back in the pack.
Came off the turn 3 wide. Our camera car, Ray Cook, right in that mix. Chubb Frank there in the 1-star car, 4 wide.
4 wide. Scott Bloomquist, I don't think, had any idea how much jeopardy was in, but he does now. Look at this, beating and banging, rooting and gouging, and everybody stays pointed in the right direction.
It's like we came out and qualified. We mixed up the formula a little bit, kind of scattered cars throughout, and then we uncorked the bottle, and here's what we're seeing.
Well, the genie has popped out, and everybody so far has pulled off a little bit of magic not to wreck. The 31 is Skip Arp. He had a bad pill draw, but he's working his way forward. Dan Schleifer got the advantage of the number 2 pill. Outside front row has already opened up a sizable advantage on the point. We will be paying attention to where our title contenders are running tonight. Wendell Wallace, the points leader, currently sits in the 3rd spot. Directly behind him is Rick Eckert. This is where they started.
Rick Eckert back in the Ford Mustang after driving the Grand Prix at Knoxville, Iowa. Wendell Wallace in his GRT house car, sponsored by Monday Trucking.
Directly behind Rick Eckert is Terry English, who had our onboard camera at the most recent race, gave us some great views. He's trying to work his way to his first Hav-A-Tampa victory of the season, and in a good starting position to do it. And in fact, down to the inside of Eckert for fourth, but cannot make it stick.
Terry English looking to the inside of Rick Eckert in this racetrack. Very conducive to side-by-side racing. The straightaways are not very long here, but they do have wide, long, sweeping turns. As you can see him come off a forest, just like one big turn around the front straightaway in through turns 1 and 2.
And the same is also true on the backstretch, so pretty much they got the wheel always turned to the left. Look at this, Dan Schleifer now starting to get a little bit of pressure from Darrell Lanigan, and that's because he has overtaken some slower cars, and race traffic always separates the men from the boys in this series.
Dan Schleifer trying to work his way around Mike Gall in the 17G car, Hav-A-Tampa Rookie of the Year point leader, as we go on board with Ray Cook.
Listen to him work that throttle. What a great sound. It gives you some sense, first of all, seeing how much his head moves. And also, you've seen some tearaways in the helmet. We'll talk more about those a little bit later as we're watching good battles around the track. But the field is slowing now for the first time. On lap 10, the caution is out. And it is out for Tony Stewart.
Tony Stewart showing damage on the left front corner of Steve Barnett's number 89 car. And Tony Stewart, after having engine problems in heat race action, tried to come through the consolation race, had a problem. He's got damage on the right front corner. As we can see, that right front tire and wheel assembly castered up a little more than it's supposed to be.
We'll be back in a moment. We're back at the new dirt track at Lowe's Motor Speedway across the highway from the big old paved track. But this is where we're having all the fun tonight. One of the drivers who is not having any fun anymore is Tony Stewart. He put on a great show in his heat race, but he's out, and he's with Bill Hennessy.
Tony, there are trials and tribulations of racing. It's like an emotional roller coaster. At one moment, you're on the high, and the next minute, it's a low. What happened today?
Tell you what, I mean, we had a really good car all weekend, and, yesterday we were really good. Tonight we were really good in the primary in my car, and, had a motor breaking in Steve Barnett's car. We took all my shocks and springs off there on his car, and it was good. We had a little motor trouble and got in a wreck, but, I mean, we had a really good car, and just too good a group of guys. I mean, my Winston Cup guys were helping, and all the guys on Steve's crew were really worked hard. We've had bad luck today, and, I mean, we had really good luck all day yesterday. It's been really bad today.
Stewart's first car out. The green flag is back out. We've got another 65 laps to go. But something else that we need to make you aware of, and the drivers are acutely aware of, that at the halfway point on lap 38, there will be a competition yellow, at which point all the drivers will have the opportunity to come to the pits, make whatever adjustments they wish to make to their cars, and Speedway officials will water the racetrack. Then we'll go back the back half of the race, the last 37 laps. Scott Bloomquist started 14th, and look at this, Roby. He's already picked off half the field.
Scott Bloomquist is a man on a mission as we go watching Scott Bloomquist from Ray Cook's point of view.
This is not the view that Ray Cook would like to have. He wouldn't even like to see Scott Bloomquist in the shot. But that is the case.
Ray Cook running the inside. You see those markers on the inside. Those are barrels filled with water. And we've had a couple of cars hit those during the course of the evening. And, boy, does that make a mess on the racetrack.
What they're trying to do there is they don't want the drivers to shortcut across that portion of the infield to try to get an unfair advantage, so they decided to put a little bit of H2O in the way. And a couple of drivers tested it, and they discovered that, no, that is not a very good way to get around the racetrack, because you pretty much come to a stop.
That is exactly right, but it's spectacular to watch, though.
Well, this is up front. This is the top 5 action with Wendell Wallace, the series points leader, and Rick Eckert, who sits 4th in the points. They are all chasing this man, Dan Schleifer, who has had some terrific recent runs to go sideways late in the event, either from a self-admitted driver mistake or from mechanical failure.
Well, Dan Schleifer has had some tough luck here in the last couple of races. He's trying to put two halves of a race together, and Dan Schleifer is capable of winning because he has already won 3 events this year.
Now Scott Bloomquist has got the reigning series champion Dale McDowell in his sights. McDowell in the Glenn's Auto Parts GRT car. I tend to think that Mr. Bloomquist will get by him, as both had to lift for just a second as Terry English got pretty much out of shape but was able to recover.
Well, this track, very racy. Drivers running high, down low, in the middle. We've seen them stacked up as high as 4 wide around this speedway in the early going as Bloomquist looking to the inside of Dale McDowell. He'll pull alongside in turn 3.
Can he make it stick? Well, we're never really sure until you get back halfway down the backstretch of whether it's worked or not. Both drivers like the groove they're in, but Bloomquist will have to lift that time, as I think McDowell pinched down just a little bit, and discretion was the better part of valor. Bloomquist very much in the title chase and knows there's a long way to go tonight.
That's right. One thing that these drivers have, as you mentioned, we've got a car slow on the racetrack. Damage on the left front for Tim Hitt.
Tim Hitt, the 1998 Hav-A-Tampa shootout winner. He's got obvious suspension problems on his number 11 mounts. So the caution is out once again.
Tim Hitt with a broken left front tie rod, and the car just will not steer when that happens. As you can see, that left front tire and wheel tucked up underneath.
And we will be back with more from Lowe's Motor Speedway after this. Welcome back to the new dirt track at Lowe's Motor Speedway. We're also going to another excellent facility with our Hav-A-Tampa TV tour, Joplin 66 Speedway. Then the series' first ever visit to Houston Raceway Park. You'll see that race in later October. We'll be back at Lowe's Motor Speedway right after that. You'll see that here on Speed Vision, as you will see this year's Hav-A-Tampa shootout. But the shootout we're concerned about is the one on the track here, and this beautiful 3/8 mile facility where Dan Schleifer, the outside pole sitter, has set the pace from the beginning and has held it ever since.
Wendell Wallace back in the 3rd spot behind the 2nd place driver, Darrell Lanigan. Title contender Rick Eckert, currently 4th in the point standings, 4th in the race. And look at Scott Bloomquist. He is getting set to move up into the top 5. He started 14th on the grid.
I was watching right behind him with Wendell Wallace and Ray Cook were having their own little get-together. And just a little friendly rubbing, nothing serious about it. Let's go on board now with Ray, because he just had he had a face full of race cars just a couple of moments ago. He's trying to work right down there on the bottom of the track. Obviously, the bottom side, on a distance standpoint, is the shortest way around the track, but it may not necessarily be so based on the tire combination and the way the clay is responding.
Here we see Scott Bloomquist knocking on the door of the 5th place automobile of Terry English. Bloomquist and the Miller Brothers Cole Warrior Ford Mustang looking to the inside of Terry English's Mid-Continental Fuels Rayburn Monte Carlo. Look at this
a little bit further back. Yes, all sorts of things are going on, including some action just off the track that's just clearing now. Dwayne Hommel, and I think even Clayton Christenberry has come to grief. Yeah, these two cars have come together, or at least are part of the same incident, to bring out the caution on lap 24.
Looked like there was some fuel coming out of the back of Hommel's car and smoke out of Christenberry's.
Well, there are a lot of drivers here tonight who race in another series, and Bill Hennessy is caught up with one of them.
Jeremy, you're a spectator here tonight at Lowe's Short Track. Who'd you come to see?
Man, Scott Bloomquist, wherever he's at, I'm trying to find him here. He's cool, man. He's a good racer, and always watching him.
Little bumping action here on this dirt track probably tonight. If you were racing out here, what kind of a tactic would you take?
Man, you got to bump. You know, that's what it's all about, man. Short track racing and going all out. And I tell you what, you walk through here, it brings back a lot of memories. You know, the guys working on their cars and just good hard-nosed racing. That's what it's all about, and a little bumping and grinding and getting after it.
Well, obviously, Jeremy Mayfield and Scott Bloomquist don't share the same hairstylist. And I know Jeremy Mayfield knows all about that little bumping and banging, and Dale Earnhardt can attest to that.
And we will just let that one dangle in midair there as we tell you we are just about set to go back to racing. Dan Schleifer continues on the point. Our pole sitter via the pill draw was Darrell Lanigan, with the 6M of Wendell Wallace sitting in the third spot. Right behind him is Scott Bloomquist, who has picked up 10 positions from his starting position.
And he's not done yet as he goes to the inside of the third-place car of Wendell Wallace, side by side off the fourth turn.
Multiple crews around the dirt track at Lowe's Motor Speedway, under the direction of Humpy Wheeler and his entire staff. Roger Slack and all the other folks here have put together an absolutely outstanding state-of-the-art dirt track facility. Look at the battle for third. Scott Bloomquist has got to the spot he wants on the racetrack. He likes it downstairs. He's made it stick. He's taken the spot.
Scott Bloomquist got a tremendous fight coming off the bottom of turn number 2 to shoot underneath Wendell Wallace to take over position number 3. He's got about 4 car lengths to make up before he reels in the second-place driver, Darrell Lanigan, as Dan Schleifer pretty much comfortably running out front in the S9 Performance Roofing Systems Rayburn Monte Carlo.
And we should mention, as we're watching action back in the pack a little bit, that we are approaching a mid-race competition yellow that should be coming up in 10 or so laps, at which time all the teams will be able to make adjustments. And if they're not running well now, they've got a chance to do it later. On board with Ray Cook. This is not for the claustrophobic on our Iski Racing. On board camera. And we almost had a lap full of race car for you in your living room.
It's amazing how close these cars race, and they're pretty much sideways and almost on the brink of being out of control through the corners.
And if you want to know why these drivers do this for a living or for recreation, you just got a great thrill, because that's what happened. Look at Cook way up the racetrack. Looks like he may have jumped the cushion. Is there a problem, Roby?
It doesn't seem to be at this point, as Ray Cook, he probably just got rattled a little bit. I know it rattled me watching it from the in-car camera.
Well, it's a thrill, and these guys can rub and beat, and unless they cut down a tire, that's just part of being that's a day in the office for these guys. Well, look at Scott Bloomquist. He is the secretary of offense right now as he is closing on our race leader, Dan Schleifer.
And Scott Bloomquist wasted no time getting around Darrell Lanigan as he is really closing the gap on Dan Schleifer, and we are at the halfway point.
This is our competition yellow, at which point the drivers and teams will be allowed a 10-minute period. Oh, this is Rick Eckert up at the top of the track. Did he get the caution in time?
He did get the caution flag in time, so he can go to the pit area now, and he can make repairs to the automobile. It looks like a definite problem with the rear suspension of the car, as we see the back of the car sitting right down on the left rear. So they will now have time to fix that without losing position.
We'll be back in a moment. There is as much action in the center of Lowe's Motor Speedway as there has been for the first 38 laps. The crews are at the mid-race break, making all the necessary adjustments that they wish to. Looking at our mid-race recap, it has been the Dan Schleifer show so far. We take a look at upcoming events. Bill Hennessy is in the middle of that maelstrom. I think he's caught up with our race leader, Dan Schleifer. Bill?
For the 4th time in 4 races, it's a good thing you don't have a rearview mirror. The race is going on behind you, Dan.
I'm glad I can't see it. I'm just trying to make some smooth laps out there. Car's pretty good right now. Got a little tight on there on me in the end there. We're going to do a little change on the car here, maybe change the left rear tire and see if we can make it better.
Scott Bloomquist's car's running hot, an oil leak on the rear end. This could spell some problems for you after coming from the 14th starting position to second.
Yeah, it's not really that bad. We've got a gasket leaking on the quick change cover. We're just going to add a little extra lube. I think we'll be okay. They just tightened up the bolts a little tighter just for insurance. Engine isn't real bad. It's about 210. I just want to start with a cool engine on this next run.
A cool engine, but a hot driver. If you were a betting man, would you bet against yourself?
Ever.
And only a fool would bet against Scott Bloomquist. Now, these are the series points coming into tonight's race. Wendell Wallace having a great run tonight. Steve Francis so-so. Scott Bloomquist we already know about. Rick Eckert got a terrific break with his car braking just at that mid-race point. That could be a major factor coming up soon. Back to Bill Hennessy in the pits.
Wendell, you're 4th right now. You don't appear to be overheating like everyone else.
No, I'm watching the temperature. If we run real hard, the temperature will climb a little bit. And like I say, it didn't pay nothing this first 30-something laps. Hopefully we can be there at the end.
Are you holding anything back?
I don't know. The car just ain't where we need to be right now. Like I say, we make some adjustments right here and fire out on these last 37 laps.
And the key word that Wendell Wallace said is make some adjustments. There you see Dan Schlieper, your leader, Bloomquist in second, Lanigan third, Wendell Wallace fourth. McDowell having a good run tonight, the defending champion in the 5th spot.
And we will be back with the second half of the race after this. All the cars have refired. The watering is complete of the track, and the drivers are now starting to work in that moisture.
That's right. When the track gets some moisture in it and that water lays on the top, it gets a little slick out there. So now the drivers will roll the track in, put that moisture back down on the racetrack, and when they do so, it'll make that clay a little tacky. But until that happens, it gets very slick as Dan Schlieper finds out the hard way.
He has hit the fence, and I think he's hit it pretty hard. Our race leader, under caution, is up against the fence. Let's look and see if we can tell what happened.
Got up in the high side, got up in that loose dirt, and once that happens, Dan Schlieper, just a passenger in the race car.
I've seen a lot of things happen in auto racing, but that might be the first time I've seen that happen. I think the important question right now is there any suspension damage? We can clearly see that the rear end of the car, the bodywork at least, has been knocked over about a foot in the wrong direction.
Well, we don't know whether that's the bodywork or the bodywork and the frame, but it is definitely askew on the back end of Dan Schlieper's car, and he's got his hand out the window as he drives by UDTRA officials and Scott Bloomquist right behind him. Bloomquist can see the damage because the back end of these race cars are open. Scott Bloomquist can see right in the back end of Dan Schlieper's car, as we can see in that shot, and he can survey the damage, and he can pretty much tell whether Dan Schlieper is going to be able to continue or not.
And what must be going through the Pewaukee, Wisconsin driver's mind at this moment? I shudder to think it is probably not for general viewership.
No, I doubt that very much. Dan Schlieper has got to be very disappointed. And the thing about it is, he does not know the extent of the damage. He doesn't know what kind of a race car he has.
But let's not write him off. It might not be that serious. We're about to find out as the green is out, and right off the get-go, Scott Bloomquist jumps to the inside, takes the lead. Can Schlieper mount a challenge?
Scott Bloomquist wasted no time getting by the damaged car of Dan Schlieper, but Schlieper pretty much keeping up pace with him in the S9 car.
So far, so good, but Scott Bloomquist said, I've got an opportunity. Schlieper is probably a little bit spooked about the moisture on the track. Let's jump down to the inside. That's the preferred spot. It was a veteran move, a bold move, and the right move at this point for Scott Bloomquist. On board once again with Ray Cook, the Iski onboard camera.
Wow. Ray Cook has a very good handling race car. He jumped to the outside, drove by Skip Arp as they go 3 wide, and Ray Cook right in the middle of that as he slides up the banking.
I just marvel watching these drivers work the wheel in this close quarters and not hit each other. I don't know how they do it. The reason they don't do it is they're the very best in the business, as even Steve Shaver just moments ago in the 30 car did a nice job of keeping out of everybody's, not so much everybody's way, but staying out of Mike Bolzano's way. He could have very easily hit him and turned him.
And the caution flag coming out. A car stalled on the speedway.
It's Skip Arp. Too bad. He was having a good run, gotten himself into the top 10, was working his way to the front, but he's got a problem now that if it is not terminal, will at no least send him to the rear of the field. So the caution back out at the dirt track at Lowe's Motors Speedway. Bill Hennessy, before the race, had a chance to catch up to our new race leader, and they had a chat about this new racetrack.
Okay, Scott, what's your read on this brand new racetrack?
Well, right now it looks like it's coming apart a little bit on the top. Looks like you're going to have to work to get your car to run on the bottom, just stay out of that rough stuff and not make a mistake. And I think they might need to do a little bit of work on it here for the future. I think they will. So, we'd like to see it get a little bit wider out there right now.
Points race is tightening up. Why is that?
Well, I think that we could probably get some finishes here, and get us a little bit of a lead. We're within 50 points now, and considering the things we've been through, I think we're in good shape.
Do you have any concerns about racing here tonight?
I have a few now that I just got done watching practice, yes. I think there's definitely going to be some real guessing go on here tire-wise. At least with the stop, though, I think we'll be able to readjust and, probably roll with whatever it takes. But I think it's going to be important to be in the front bunch there by the first half.
One of the things about Scott Bloomquist is you ask him a straight question, he will give you a straight answer, and more often than not, he's right.
Well, Scott Bloomquist, one of the more knowledgeable drivers, mechanics, car builders. I mean, Scott Bloomquist does it all out of his shop out of Mooresburg, Tennessee. He's been working the last couple of years with Sanford Goddard and the folks at Goddard Performance and Warrior Chassis, and he's got a whole design all to his own on this Warrior chassis that he's running in the Zero car. It's completely different from any other Warrior chassis, but it is a chassis you can buy at Goddard Performance.
Darrell Lanigan sitting in the third spot, getting some pressure from Dale McDowell. Wendell Wallace had been toward the front, given up a little bit of ground here since the restart of the race. We'll keep an eye on that to see if that is indicative of any more serious problem. But Scott Bloomquist, the all-time winningest driver in Hav-A-Tampa competition. Dale McDowell, the all-time winningest driver in terms of single-season earnings. Earned over $300,000 last year, back on board with Ray Cook. You hear him work the throttle, you see him work the wheels.
On the wheel. Ray Cook very busy, and you know, Mark, you couldn't put enough cameras inside these cars to see how busy these drivers are. You can see their hands on the wheel, but their feet are also busy, working the throttle with the right foot, the brake with the left foot, and then when they get time, they'll reach up and grab one of those tear-offs you see on the left side of Ray Cook's helmet to get some clear vision.
And one of the things that no onboard camera ever captures accurately is speed. These drivers are doing almost 100 miles per hour at the middle of the front end backstretch. We're keeping an eye on Dan Schliefer, who just before the restart hit the outside wall pretty hard. Bloomquist has checked out. That is the margin between himself and second place Dan Schliefer. Now the question is, will Schliefer be able to defend that runner-up position?
Well, we'll soon find out as Darrell Lanigan closes in, and not that far behind is Dale McDowell as Lanigan looks to the inside. And as you said, Bloomquist has packed these bags, turned into key, and checked out on the field.
That was pretty good. You got three cliches into the same sentence. That's not bad.
Lanigan down on the bottom. Schliefer's car working a little contact there coming up. Had a little insult to injury there to Dan Schliefer's car.
Well, where he hit Schliefer, he's actually going to shove the bodywork back more where it belongs. But question is, and something that we cannot tell, is there any suspension or frame damage on Dan's car? Here's another look at what just happened a second ago.
Lanigan just pushed up into the left rear quarter panel of Dan Schliefer's car. And you look at that, you can see what the angle the rear spoiler is on Schliefer's car. So he's putting more air down on that left rear than he is the right rear.
Was that a message, Tap, or was that just racing?
I don't think so. I think it was just a case of Lanigan trying to get off the corner and the front end washed out on him a little bit. And just one of those racing is rubbing deals there that Jeremy Mayfield was talking about earlier.
I'd love to see him out here in a car, I'll tell you what. A lot of Winston Cup drivers came to the new dirt track at Lowe's Motor Speedway to watch this race. In fact, I counted 4 of them myself. Caution is out. You saw right at the top of the screen just a split second ago that a car was slowed, and it's Clayton Christenberry who has got some problems to bring out a caution. Longtime campaigner in the series, a man who really supports the United Dirt Track Racing Association. We're heading to break with Scott Bloomquist still on the points. We call it one cool cookout here at the new dirt track at Lowe's Motor Speedway. It has been one hot night of racing, a great crowd on hand. As we're going to get set to go back to racing here in just a moment, the previous restart, Scott Bloomquist got the jump, made it stick, and took the lead. This time he gets a great jump over Dan Schliefer, and there is no challenge for the point on this restart.
Dan Schliefer definitely driving a wounded race car, but so far Darrell Lanigan and Dale McDowell, who are running 3rd and 4th respectively, have not really been able to challenge Schliefer for the 2nd position. Rick Eckert having a good run tonight. He's back in the 5th spot in car number 24, the Ray Vest Rocket Ford Mustang. Further back through the field, we see Wendell Wallace, Chubb Frank in the 1 star, and Ray Cook carrying our onboard camera right in the middle of that battle for position.
Scott Blomqvist mentioned how the track is a little bit rough, and he really wasn't saying that critically. In fact, Scott is a driver who likes a rough racetrack, as he said, when the track is rough, other drivers make mistakes, and I can jump on them.
Well, you can just kind of get an illustration of that by watching Ray Cook's helmet from the in-car shot. We talked about the hands and the feet earlier, but the head gets a workout too, because these helmets are made out of a lightweight Kevlar material, but believe me, it gets a little heavy about lap 30 on.
Giving you a title update in the points right now. Second place, Steve Francis is running 11th. Series points leader Wendell Wallace is running in front of him. So Wallace at this point stands to pick up a couple of points should the race end now, but of course it won't. And with all the action that we've seen as now, Dale McDonald has worked around Dan Schlieper. Yeah, it looks like the handle is going away on that car. That brush with the wall was a bad sign of things to come. Caution back out once again. Oh, it looks like we've lost Jimmy Mars. There is smoke trailing it. That is not a tire.
So Scott Blomqvist, the only thing that has really slowed him down tonight are the caution flags.
And he will take his car behind the wall. A tough break for the Parker Stores sponsored entry. His crew will take a look at the car, but unless it's an oil line coming off, he's done for the night. Here's another look.
And the smoke billowing out of the back of the Parker Stores Rocket Monte Carlo. And usually when that happens, it could be either something terminal or it could be something as simple as an oil line coming loose. You never know until you get it in the pits and take a look at it.
And we've heard from Bill Hennessy, who's down on that location, that it is indeed terminal. Jimmy Mars done for the night. So now Darrell Lanigan, that Dan Schlieper has faded to the 4th position. Lanigan is the man who will try to pose the challenge to Blomqvist, who, as the leader, sets the pace for the restart. Got a terrific one and has already opened up a few car lengths. But look at that battle for 3rd as Schlieper is trying to get back to the spot. It won't be easy. He's got to pay more attention, I think, to more what is happening behind him.
Steve Shaver right behind Dan Schlieper. He and Rick Eckert battling for the 5th position as Schlieper, he hasn't given it up yet as he was trying to get to the inside of the 3rd place car of Dale McDowell.
And if there is any driver that can muscle an ill-handling race car around a track, it is Dan Schlieper. He is whoa. And look at Ray Cook, jumped the cushion, just about caught a piece of the fence. And Schlieper stands, what, about 6'4", 6'5", about 220 pounds, and it is all muscle. Ray Cook, slight in stature, but strong as well, and you have to be to work a race car the way he's having to work his English Mountain Springwater entry tonight.
These Hav-A-Tampa drivers are tremendous athletes. When you walk up and meet them, the first thing you notice is the size of their necks. I mean, it has to have tremendous neck strength to hold your head up. You're going 100 miles an hour on a track that's got little ruts and ripples in it, and it'll really bounce you around, and the upper body strength on these drivers is tremendous.
4th place now goes to Steve Shaver. Directly behind them, back in the 8th spot, Wendell Wallace, Ray Cook, and Steve Francis. And there is a smoker, and Rick Eckert. He had his problems right at the mid-race point, and we surmised it was a great advantage for him to have those troubles just when we had that mid-race break. But this looks to be major.
A lot of smoke coming out of the back of the car for Rick Eckert, and that will bring us to caution with Scott Blomqvist out in front.
We'll be back after this. Mark Allen, Roby Holm, and Bill Hennessy here at the new dirt track at Lowe's Motor Speedway. The green flag has just come back out for a 10-lap green flag dash to the checkers with Scott Blomqvist in front. Just a little bit further back in the pack, that is Chubb Frank, who has worked his way around Dan Schlieper, who was second not that many laps ago, but is just trying now to salvage a good finish.
Wendell Wallace now right behind Dan Schlieper. Wallace leading the point standings, trying to extend his lead over that driver, Steve Francis, in car number 15, as Francis beginning to close in the car of Ray Cook, separating Wallace from Francis.
We pay so much attention to the points. Oh, look at this. Schleifer up on the high side, much slower. Something has given up on his car.
What a tough break for Dan Schleifer. He damaged it at the halfway point when he spun in the wet, loose dirt, and he carried that car for so many laps, only having to give it up now with inside of 10 laps to go.
This is a battle in the top 5 as Steve Shaver is trying to put the moves on the reigning series champion, Dale McDowell.
Dale McDowell having a nice run tonight, our winner at Bristol Motor Speedway in front of the largest crowd ever to see a dirt late model race. Not a bad crowd here tonight. Over 10,000 people in attendance here at the dirt track at Lowe's Motor Speedway.
And the yellow is out once again with just 5 circuits to go.
Petey Ivy in the 88 car out of Union, South Carolina, stopping on the racetrack.
And so Scott Bloomquist will have to wait a little bit longer to see if he will indeed get to victory lane. Darrell Lanigan will try anything he knows now. I think he's tried just about every card he's got in his deck, but you never know. I mean, he's been at this game a while, too, and he may have one card left up his sleeve.
There's Danny Myers, Scott Bloomquist crew chief. He's giving him a signal. I think they've got their own kind of code or something like that. I'm not sure what language that was written in.
Well, they managed to communicate very effectively. Bloomquist, the all-time series leader in victories. You know, one of the things we mentioned, Roby, is how important the points are. We keep harping on them for good reason, because the national championship chase in 1999, the entire season, the difference between Dale McDowell and Wendell Wallace was 2 finishing positions.
That's exactly right. And every position counts. You'll see drivers go to the pits that might be title contenders. You'll see them come back out, even though they're 5 and 6 laps down in the race. They're coming out trying to get every little position they can because it all counts. It's a long season, but a long way to go, but every little point counts. And not only do points count, money count. We talked about Scott Bloomquist in the draw for position. If he can win this race, Mark, he'll not only pick up the $20,000 top prize, but Humpy Wheeler is paying $1,000 for each position. The winner moves up from where he started. Scott Bloomquist could be looking at a $34,000 payday.
And I don't think he's thinking about that at the moment. He's got his hands full with Darrell Lanigan. Meanwhile, just behind those front 5 cars, this is a battle for position. Our series points leader, Wendell Wallace, trying to pick up a spot. Ray Cook right in the middle of that fray as well.
Where they're running on the racetrack, every position that Wendell Wallace can move up now, he puts a 5-point difference between himself and Steve Francis in the title hunt, and he's racing side by side with Ray Cook. Look how close they are.
Sideways at 100 miles an hour.
Ray Cook went inside. He was outside. He's all over Wendell Wallace in the 6M car as they move up on Chubb Frank in the 1-star automobile, the Mack Trailers Rocket Monte Carlo out of Sugar Grove, Pennsylvania.
Oh, there's just wrecks all over the place that just aren't happening out there. Oh, man. This is 5th, 6th, and 7th. And you think they were battling for the victory. That looked like a little bit of contact there. Cook keeps the car underneath him, but back up front, Scott Bloomquist is oblivious to all this rooting and gouging going on. Wow, what a race. The white flag is out. Scott Bloomquist, with nary a mark on his race car, is set sail for victory. They are still battling for every dollar, every position. But off the 4th corner, the checkered flag belongs to Scott Bloomquist. His 4th win of the season. The battle for 6th is won by Ray Cook by a car length.
Well, Scott Bloomquist can start thinking about that $34,000 now.
He certainly earned it, coming from the 14th position. As we take a look at the top 5 finish order, Chubb Frank got that spot all by himself, and the one behind him, that battle for 6th, was a beaut, a great finish for Steve Shaver.
Started 16th.
We'll be back after this.
Congratulations, Scott Bloomquist. What kind of propulsion did you have in this thing in the second half?
I'll tell you what, we really didn't change much. Put a new left rear tire on. We started tearing up the old one. That's about all we changed. Car was super. You know, we were trying to take it easy through the early stages. High side was a little bit hard to see him going by with the left front off the ground. We just kind of felt pretty confident the way we ran down Sleeper that it wasn't going to be a problem. It's a good start. Took it from there.
How much incentive was that $14,000?
That was a lot. You know, that's where when I saw 14, I thought, you know, I could use that too. Let's just get it done.
Well, congratulations. Looks like you're joined here in Victory Lane by a lot of your friends and supporters.
You bet. This Bob and Barb Miller, they flew in today to watch the race. Come here. They've been saying how great a facility this is all day. Really was glad to win it for them and for the whole team.
He ties Rick Eckert for the most wins in the series in 2000.
Ray Cook coming home in 6th spot. Wendell Wallace, the point leader, in 7th. Steve Francis chasing him in the championship battle in 8th. Mike Balzano and Mike Galt having a top 10 finish, the Rookie of the Year point leader.
And Rick Eckert, who had a mechanical problem late in the race, drops to 15th. He gives up a lot of very valuable points in the title chase. Tony Stewart did a nice job in the heat races and did his darndest to give us a good show in the feature, but it was not to be tonight. As 75 laps of racing at the dirt track at Lowe's Motor Speedway are complete, we will be back here for the race in September, which you will see here on Speed Vision. So if you enjoyed what you saw tonight, you're going to get a second barrel of Lowe's Motor Speedway Hav-A-Tampa racing action later in the season. Wendell Wallace now is being chased by Scott Bloomquist, only 14 points, but we got a long way to go, and 4 drivers within 100 points of the top.
Good battle for 6th, 7th, and 8th place as well among Ray Cook, Donnie Moran, and Dan Sleeper.